Coming up on the World Sailing Show. The 2024 America's Cup teams face off for the first time in this Cup cycle. We head offshore for the gruelling 54th Solitaire du Figaro and begin our countdown to Paris 2024. The 37th America's Cup is now less than a year away, and the first chance for the 6 teams to check in on each other was a highly anticipated watershed moment, with the first of 3 preliminary regattas at Villanova near Barcelona.
Here to try and win the event. I don't think any team here would tell you different, but it's really about making sure that we give it our best shot and we can learn and improve from that.
Emirates Team New Zealand are the Cup holders, and 5 challengers have launched campaigns to unseat them next autumn.
I feel like we're very confident. I feel like as a sailing group we're really excited to be racing first and foremost. And we spent a lot of time getting prepared for this regatta as kind of we would prepare for the America's Cup. So we feel prepared and we're just excited to be racing, and we're just going to try our best.
A lot of things we have to learn for sure. The SC40 is pretty new for us, probably 10 or 12 days of sailing, so we learn every day, and we have to push hard to just match the other and be ready to do some tactics or strategy, and that's our main focus for now.
The preliminary regattas are being raced in one design AC40s that the Women's and Youth America's Cup competitions will use next year. But any hopes the teams had of measuring themselves against their opposition were abandoned on day one, as local storms made racing impossible.
Unfortunately, the weather didn't play ball for us, and it really wasn't raceable out there. Visibility was down to a couple hundred metres, wind all over the place, and lightning, rain. So yeah, it's a shame, especially given it was the first opportunity to see these boats. But hopefully tomorrow will bring some better conditions for us.
But day 2 was better, and it was the French Orient Express racing team, the last to launch their America's Cup bid, that took the win in the opening race.
Orient Express Racing take maximum 10 points from the first race.
Race 2, and this time it was the champions, New Zealand, who pulled clear of the fleet.
Emirates Team New Zealand get across the line and will win race 2.
In light winds, all the teams struggled to get up onto their foils, but it was an encouraging start for New Zealand and France.
Everyone's been working super hard just to get this off the ground and for us to improve as well, and we were struggling a lot in the week, so to get a race win was just incredible, and you can see everyone's so happy, and I think it's going to take a little bit of pressure off everyone as well. He's been working hard, and we're just looking forward to the rest of the regatta now. It's all going to be a bonus.
We're really happy with how today went, and the last 3 days for that matter, but we've got to park that now. It looks like a completely different day tomorrow with some bigger waves and a lot more breeze. So it's going to be about going back to the notes, making sure we're good to go, and we're going to be definitely doing everything we can to try and win this first preliminary America's Cup regatta.
When I look at our team, as frustrated as we are to not be at the front of the fleet, it's an incredible learning opportunity which otherwise we wouldn't have, and we wouldn't know this. So we've got to look at the positives from this and figure out quite how they're sailing so much better than we are and close that gap.
3 more fleet races were scheduled for the final day, with the top 2 teams going head-to-head in a match race final to decide the overall winner. New Zealand picked up where they left off the previous day with another victory to book their place in the final. But it was American Magic who came on strong in the next 2 races, leapfrogging France's Orient Express racing team to secure the other spot in the grand final against New Zealand. And just as the regatta had started, the weather again played the major role as the pair began their duel in very light wind before their match race had to be abandoned. With a 1-point advantage in the weekend standings, American Magic were declared the winners in Villanova, striking the first blow in the build-up to the 37th America's Cup.
I'd like to thank all of Villanova for turning up and putting on such a fantastic sailing event. From American Magic, we have a much bigger team than the 4 of us stood up here. We have a lot of people back at the base, a lot of friends, families, supporters here today, and we want to just say a massive thank you to all you guys for everything you do for the team, everything you do for us. Thank you.
La Solitaire du Figaro is France's most famous offshore race for single-handed sailors. 32 of whom were setting off from Caen in this year's event to take on multiple crossings of the English Channel, the Celtic and Irish seas, with a final blast across the Bay of Biscay to Spain and back to the French coast. This year's fleet included 5 women, 6 non-French sailors and 10 rookies. Hoping to go one better than 2022 was last year's runner-up.
I'm super happy to be on the start line for this race again. Last year was amazing and I hope that this year goes as well. I'm well prepared, so there's no reason why not. So it's exciting.
The 54th edition of La Solitaire got underway with the first of 3 legs that made up the 2023 race, a 610 nautical mile crisscross of the English Channel with a finish in the Irish port of Kinsale. Guillaume Pirouel led the fleet early on before Corentin Aurault came to the front aboard Banque Populaire on the 3rd day at sea. As Aurault led the peloton west at the Scilly Isles in search of breeze, a handful of sailors headed directly north to the Irish coast, sailing a shorter distance that would prove decisive. Rookie Benoit Tuduri was the first into Kinsale after 3 days and 19 hours. Behind him came Irishman Tom Dolan in his 6th solitaire start, followed by the first female skipper to the line, Julie Simon. However, both Simon and Tuduri received penalties from the jury, which promoted Dolan to first place as he prepared for the next 4 days of racing.
There's always a nervous feeling when you get back on the boat alone again, and you're like, ah. I feel a little bit of nostalgia this morning to be leaving Ireland, but I'm happy to be heading back out there and getting on with the sailing.
Leg 2 got underway in misty conditions and light winds, a test for the fleet.
Less wind is almost more stressful than more wind. It's very hard to go to sleep when you're not sure that the boat is pointing in the right direction. I find it very, very stressful.
4, 3, 2, 1. Bon départ, bon départ.
The course took the fleet north and round Chicken Rock near the Isle of Man, before heading back south towards France via the Cornish coast. After days coaxing their boats along, 34-year-old Corentin Aurault and Basile Bourgnon, at 22 the youngest sailor in the race, emerged at the front and settled into a classic match race. For Aurault, this was his 7th solitaire and Bourgnon just his 2nd, as he looked to emulate his father, Laurent, who'd won the race back in 1988. They reached the Baie de Molay and were slowed to a virtual standstill. It was the youngster who held his nerve to take the leg by just over 3 minutes.
I had a lot of luck with a corridor of wind along the English coast and I just passed everybody. They were all slowed up and trying to manoeuvre through the wind. I arrived with my red spinnaker and just flew past. I ended up at the front with Corentin and we were match racing like we're used to doing in winter together, but this time for real.
The Wee Berard finished half an hour behind the leading pair, but calms in the final stretch cost the rest of the fleet crucial hours, meaning the winner of the solitaire was now almost certain to come from the Stage 2 podium finishers, with the likes of Leg 1 winner, Tom Dolan, 15 hours behind the overall leaders. The final leg took the fleet on a 470 nautical mile course across the Bay of Biscay and back to Piriac-sur-Mer in the Gulf de Morbihan. Elodie Bonafou had made history in 2022 as the first French woman to podium on a leg of La Solitaire, and she led the fleet for more than a day as they headed to the southernmost point on the 2023 course. But Benoit Tuduri, who'd been denied the Leg 1 win, had opted to stay closer to the coast, and this proved the shrewd move, as the 29-year-old led the way as the fleet headed back north. Back in 8th and 9th places were Corentin Aurault and Basile Bourgnon. The younger sailor had started with a 9-minute overall advantage, but Aurault was gradually opening a 20-minute gap that would prove decisive. Just after 3 a.m, following 3.5 days at sea, Tuduri reached the finish line to claim the Leg 3 victory and win the rookie trophy. Behind him came Jules Delpech, and then, for the 2nd year in a row, Elodie Bonafou. But 15 minutes behind her, Corentin Aurault sailed home in 6th place to claim overall victory in the solitaire by just under 11 minutes.
C'était un rêve It's a dream. It's been a dream since I was a little kid to win the Solitaire. And now, in my 7th participation, I felt this year would be good. I was in a great headspace and I was well prepared. And it wasn't the most beautiful Solitaire. I sailed like an accountant, I'd say. I was trying to sail in the fleet without too many risks. It isn't the best way of sailing, but it's the way you have to sail to win the Solitaire.
C'était la manière dont il fallait naviguer cette année pour gagner la Solitaire.
With the Allianz Sailing World Championships concluded, the sailing world is turning its attention to Paris 2024, less than 10 months away.
Just wow, I mean, yeah, the Olympics are there for me. I'm qualified and I got the world champion title. It's a dream come true.
For Paris 2024, read Marseille, 660 kilometres south of the French capital. It will host the sailing from the 28th of July to the 8th of August. The recent test event there brought the countdown to life.
The great thing about a test event is that we're able to really push the boundaries of and test the various events. This week, our PRO has tried bringing the courses really tight into the shoreline so that we can really make it exciting and for the spectators, but also push some of the courses out to make sure that we're getting the best wind and really testing the sailors in every way that we can.
We are very lucky because we are 1 year before the Olympics and we can say we are not ready, but not so far. So we are very lucky. You have the home of the French sailing team just there. It's very important for us to have a focus on Marseille to explain to people that sailing will be probably in the best place of the Olympic Games next year.
330 athletes will compete for medals in 10 events next year, 5 of which are new to this Olympics. Split equally across the genders, there are 4 men's events, 4 women's and 2 mixed competitions. As well as the excitement of new foiling classes, the Games are expected to produce the next chapter in some great Olympic rivalries. In the 49er FX competition, Brazil's Martine Grael and Gehenna Kunz will be gunning for a hat-trick of gold medals. But expect tough competition from Dutch duo Odile van Aanholt and Annette Duets, and Sweden's new world champions Vilma Bobek and Rebecca Netzler.
That's what we're here for. A lot of sailing, and yeah, the dream would be to stand on top of the podium in Marseille.
The NACRA 17 should see the continuation of the rivalry between Ruggero Tita and Caterina Banti, and John Gimson and Anna Burnett. The Italians took gold at both the Tokyo Olympics and last month's World Championships, but the Brits, 2 times world champions themselves, will be looking for revenge in Marseille.
The British show to be extremely consistent. The good thing is that we train together. We know what's our level, they know our level, and we know their weakness and their strong points.
In the Ilka 6 event, the last 2 Olympic champions, Marit Baumeister and Anne-Marie Rindon, will be searching for more gold, while Hungary's Maria Erdi has high hopes after her breakthrough World Championships victory.
Of course I'm thinking about Paris 2024. That's what we do this for. But it's pretty cool that I have managed to win the second biggest event in the Olympic cycle.
But it's the new foiling events that are creating most excitement in the countdown to Paris 2024. The IQ foil competition has strength in depth in both the men's and women's fleets, while Formula Kite seems made for the French team at their home Olympics.
It's true that the level of the French team is very high because we've been kite foiling for a very long time. For over a decade now, there have been French sailors like Max Nochet, Nico Pallier and Axel Mazzella who have been practicing this sport. And now to have kite foiling at the Paris Games for the first time, I think it's a great French success and a wonderful story.
Nolo will be challenged by 6 times world champion Daniela Moroz of the USA in Marseille, while in the men's kite, Singapore's teenage sensation Max Mader will be looking to spoil the French party. The World Sailing Show will be providing a comprehensive build-up to the Games with profiles and Olympic news as we count down to next summer. Time to catch up with the rest of the stories from around the world now. The World Match Racing Tour has announced that this year's Tour final will take place in Shenzhen, China from the 12th to the 17th of December. The top 11 teams, after the penultimate round in Bermuda, will qualify for the event, along with a local wildcard team with a total prize fund of $200,000 on offer. The GKA World Tour has seen wing-foiling's elite taking part in surf freestyle and slalom competitions at Hvidsande in Denmark. In the men's surf freestyle, reigning champion Malo Guenole outclassed his fellow French rivals and season leader Christopher McDonald of the USA for victory. While 16-year-old Spanish rider Nia Suarez claimed her 4th win of the season in the women's competition to secure the world title with 2 rounds to spare. The men's freestyle slalom saw Italy's Francesco Capuzzo and France's Tituan Galea finish equal on points, but the Italian took victory on the tiebreak. Once again, Nia Suarez reigned supreme in the women's event, winning 13 out of the 14 rounds to add the Freestyle Slalom World Championship title to her collection of trophies this season. Porto Cervo in Sardinia hosted the Maxi Yacht Rolex Cup with a fleet of almost 50 Maxis racing across 6 classes in the week-long regatta. The 100-foot Quattrocento Galatea dominated Class A, while Hapforth Bellamente finally emerged victorious in Class B after a week-long duel with fellow US yacht Proteus. Close racing in the Super Maxis saw the new 101-foot Wally Y3K win the class by just a single point over the 115-foot Moat. Spirit of Larino won Class 3, Svea the J-Class, and Allegra the inaugural Maxi Multi-Hull class, in what was yet another spectacular week on the Costa Smeralda. Finally, Season 4 of SailGP reached the French Riviera, with the opening day of competition providing plenty of drama. Canada and Spain had a coming together in Race 1 that could have been much more costly. It was New Zealand who went on to win the opener, but there was a shock finish to the day, and the Kiwis' mast shattered above them at the end of Race 3. Miraculously, none of the crew were injured, but with no spares, it meant their regatta was over. The final saw Spain taking on the British and Australian teams, but it turned out to be a slugfest between Ben Ainsley and Tom Slingsby. The decisive move came when the British boat flew past the Flying Roo to take control of the race, and they held on to win their first regatta since Bermuda in Season 2. Preveza have been the dominant force in this year's 52 Super Series, winning the first 2 regattas of the year and coming second to Platoon at the last round in Menorca. With 2 rounds remaining in the 2023 season, the fleet set up in Barcelona for the Rolex TP52 World Championship. Unfortunately, sweltering heat and a lack of breeze kept all 10 boats tied to the dock for the first 2 days of competition. The wind finally arrived on day 3, and the racing got underway in a moderate 8 to 10 knot breeze. In Race 1, Gladiator made the best start, with Platoon second round the top mark. By the time they reached the leeward gate, that position had been reversed, with Platoon hitting the front and holding on to take first blood in Barcelona. The second race saw Sled move to the front after a close start and gradually pull away from the rest of the fleet to take victory ahead of Phoenix and Preveza. The breeze had picked up for the final race of the day. After an even start, Gladiator rounded the top mark first, with Allegre in hot pursuit. Preveza were lying in 4th, but slowly made their way to the front and had taken the race lead by the leeward gate. That's the way it stayed, with the Turkish flag boat finishing ahead of Gladiator and Allegre to end the first day of racing at the top of the leaderboard.
It's been tough out there, especially of the heat and the competition, obviously, but we managed to put a solid day, as you said, and we are pretty happy with how everything's going. The boat is going really fine, both upwind and downwind. The team is doing their job, so we are happy.
Day 4 brought a light southerly, putting an emphasis on boat speed and minimising manoeuvres. Preveza, Platoon and Sled all started well in the first race, with Preveza edging out in front to take their second win of the regatta and increase their World Championship lead. Race number 5 saw Phoenix leading the fleet round the top mark, with Platoon in second. Allegre moved into third on the final run, but Phoenix held on to claim only their second victory of the season. The final outing of the day saw Gladiator and Platoon duelling at the front and nearly coming to blows early on. Gladiator emerged from that particular battle in a better position and went on to win the race, with Quantum edging Platoon to take second place and Preveza finishing 4th.
we managed to hang in there and come away with 3 pretty good races for today, and we're still just in the lead. Who would have thought if we were 3 points clear going into the last day of the Worlds, you know, we'd be feeling pretty good. So we all agreed that we were feeling good, and we'll see how we go tomorrow.
After we were shooting ourselves yesterday, it's a better day. Boat of the day is good, and hopefully we can do the same in Menorca, last regatta, catching them on the last race. There's no special strategy. Trying to win every single race, that's the only thing what you can do.
Going into the final day of the Rolex TP52 World Championship, Preveza were just 2 races away from winning their first world title. But 2-time champions Platoon were only 3 points behind them. The first of those 2 races saw the most even start to the week. At the top mark, Phoenix overlapped Gladiator, leading to a very tight rounding, which Platoon took full advantage of to move into the lead. Worse was to come for Gladiator at the leeward gate as they dropped their kite into the water. Platoon went on to win the race, and with title rivals Preveza back in 6th place, Harm Mullerspreer's crew had turned a 3-point deficit into a 2-point advantage, with just 1 race left to decide the destination of the World Championship. Determined not to dwell on their worst result of the week, Preveza made the best of the first upwind to lead round the top mark, with Platoon back in 5th. The Turkish boat had increased their lead by the leeward gate, with Interlodge in 2nd and Quantum Racing 3rd. Preveza stayed out in front doing what they had to do, but behind them Platoon was slowly making up places as they caught and passed the other boats. Ergin Imre's boat held on to win, but couldn't do anything to stop Platoon sailing home in 2nd to win the 2023 world title by a single point.
Winning 3 world titles in this class, this is a monohull racing, you can't have it better. That's a big honor to do this.
It's tough to win the race and still not win the regatta, but we've just got to now focus on the overall for the season and keep chipping away, and I think if we keep sailing the way we've been doing, hopefully that'll be enough for Port Owls.
That's it for now, but next time we talk to Olympic champions Ruggero Tita and Caterina Banti, and meet French America's Cup team Orient Express Racing.